Welcome to another program in our series called Free Thinking Forum. It's my great pleasure to have with me today my friend Gene Martinez. Gene, welcome to the program. And as you'll see throughout the program, Gene wears many hats and, and does them all very well, I think.
Oh, thank you.
Gene, why don't you begin just by telling us about yourself, where you began life?
Oh, sure. I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and lived there till I was in my early 20s, and then I moved to Minneapolis in 1981.
Good. And was that for education?
Yes, to attend the University of Minnesota Law School. So I just wanted to get someplace that was totally different in terms of, I was kind of sick of the desert at that point and wanted to go somewhere totally different, so I chose Minnesota.
With all our green and with all our good people.
Yes, and cold winters.
And cold winters, yes. I know from living in the South that because the winters are not cold farther south, sometimes there are bugs that survive the winter that I did not find very pleasant. But welcome. You came up from New Mexico to go to the law school, and you earned your law degree.
Yes.
And how long have you been involved with the First Unitarian Society?
Well, my wife, Anita, and I have been involved since 1993 as members. We started attending in 1992. We were kind of alienated watching the Sunday talk shows and said there's got to be something better than this. So we had our next door neighbors at the time attended FUS, and I had been to FUS for various events over the years. So we decided to go, and we have never stopped since then.
Well, good. You chose well. Was this your first Unitarian congregation?
Well, actually, I became a Unitarian in 1978 in Las Cruces, New Mexico. I was attending New Mexico State University, and they had a Unitarian fellowship there, and a lot of my professors in the government department who were very active in the Civil Liberties Union were members, so I was a member there. And then
you followed your professors.
Yeah, I followed my professors, and then when I moved back to Albuquerque for a year, I did some graduate studies in political science at the University of New Mexico. I joined the First Unitarian Church of Albuquerque. So I was a member there about a year before I moved to Minneapolis.
Well, good. You've seen some experience elsewhere in both the lay-led fellowships and the church with a minister.
Exactly.
When did you become a humanist?
Well, I became a humanist. I think it was a process over time. I was raised Catholic, and I kind of pretty much rejected that by the time I was out of high school. But you know, for lack of a better faith, you might call it, I kind of was nominally a Catholic, but then I did, become familiar with Unitarianism at New Mexico State. But I would say it was an evolution, but I would say that I've probably been a humanist at least 15 years.
15 years. And what does it mean to you to be a humanist?
I think to be a humanist is that you are very centered on this world, what you can do in this world to make the world a better place, what you can do to serve your fellow human beings, and what you can do to leave the world a better place than when you were born into it, and not spend so much time worrying about the afterlife or
where we came from,
or some magical entity in the sky. That it's really about your actions here on Earth, and so there could be a wide variety of beliefs. But
well, now some viewers might think that you could not have a morality since you don't have God. How do you respond to that?
Well, if you go back, actually prior to Christianity, we had the ancient philosophers that came up with the concept of ethics.
Yes.
And
are you speaking of the Greek philosophers?
Yes, the Greek philosophers, and
Chinese as well, I think.
And so that's not true. The people came up with ways to talk about their behavior towards their fellow man, and just from a utilitarian standpoint, we need to have certain rules in society, and we need to treat each other in order to get the desired outcomes. And since nobody can prove that a burning bush ever spoke to them, or some other religious symbol, some vision of the Virgin Mary or whatever that I find trouble believing in, if ethics and morals don't come from people themselves, where do they come from? And I think they come from ourselves.
Good. And does humanism then influence the way you lead your life in different facets of your life?
It really does. It fuels my appreciation for the importance of the separation of church and state, because every religious sect thinks that they have the truth, and left to their own devices, religious sects may attempt to impose their beliefs on other people. And so you see the hypocrisy of self-proclaimed Christians in this country sometimes, most of them on the religious right, who claim that they're being persecuted because of their Christian beliefs, but in a way what they're trying to do is impose their beliefs on everybody else. And so if they saw something that was associated with Islam or some other religion, they would be very quick to say, "Oh no, we got to keep that separate from the state." But if it's all about leading a Christian prayer at a public meeting, or they're all for that. And so we really need to preserve the religious freedom of everybody, and the way we do that is by having strict separation of church and state.
Sounds like you might be in agreement with the Secular Coalition for America and the Secular Coalition for Minnesota that is growing now to represent you and others like you.
Oh, I am very much, and we really need people that are closely watching what's happening at the legislature in terms of church and state issues, and we need advocates out there that will argue for equal treatment for humanists and atheists. There have been times when humanists or atheists were discriminated against because of their non-belief.
Indeed. And the new anti-bullying law that helps the schools enforce that discouragement of bullying does include atheists and free thinkers and agnostics and so on, humanists.
Yes, it does.
So, what leadership roles have you participated in at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis?
Well, there's been a number of things. I served on the board of trustees for 3 years, and I've also served on the board of the First Unitarian Society Foundation.
Oh, yes.
And they help raise money for the long-term future of the society. So I've served a term on that board. And then currently I'm the chair of the Forum Committee.
Now that's the forum that meets on Sunday mornings at 9:30?
Yes.
September to May, through May?
September through like the first Sunday in June or whenever our program year ends. And that is a opportunity to either bring in speakers from the community or speakers within our congregation who have something to say about a subject that would be of importance to Unitarians.
What would be some examples? Have we had anybody yet from nonviolent peacekeepers or Peace Force?
Yes, we've had a forum with people involved in various peace issues. Women Against Military Madness has spoken in the last year. We've also had August Berkshire from the Minnesota Atheists has spoken. We've had
Now, August is also the legislative chair for the Secular Coalition for Minnesota.
That is right. That is right.
And you were saying, giving some other examples?
Yes, there's an organization called the Humanist Institute, and we've had presentations from that organization, and they are a school that people can attend to get kind of advanced studies in humanism and be prepared to for various positions in congregations or.
Yes, I learned from that presentation at the forum that there are courses online that people can take.
Exactly.
That's a welcome addition to our resources.
Exactly, and we had, we've been very focused on climate change this last year, and addressed that in the forum. We had Dr. Mark Seeley, who's a climatologist and very familiar to people who watch public television or listen to public radio. He attended, or he gave one of our forums last fall, and so we try and have a rich variety of speakers, and actually anybody who's watching this, if they've got a good cause or a good organization they want to speak about, they can
just call the church and leave a message for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or simply address it firstunitarian.org.
Yes.
Is the website, and I guess is there
there is a forum
at First Unitarian?
Well, no, but under member documents on the website, there is actually a form now, that an online form, if you have a form proposal that people can fill out, and then once somebody fills that out, that automatically comes to me. So.
Oh, good. So that's makes it even easier. Well, Gene, you've got some really great perspective. How should First Unitarian Society participate in the humanist movement here in Minnesota?
Well, I really think we have such a tremendous infrastructure at the First Unitarian Society in terms of our history, being one of
over 100 years.
Over 100 years, and being one of the, where the birthplace of religious humanism was, or one of the birthplaces with our minister John Dietrich.
Back in
I think it was 1917 to the 30s that he was at
1917.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he was preaching humanism that early.
He was preaching, he was in downtown Minneapolis at the State Theater speaking before, 1,200, 1,500 people back then.
Wow.
We had our church building downtown, but since the early 50s, we've had a beautiful building, built in the modern architecture style and with glass walls. We have that building right behind the Walker Art Center in
right up the hill from the Walker Art Center. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
900 Mount Curve.
900 Mount Curve. And so we have a beautiful building that people can have meetings in. And so I think we're trying to be a building that welcomes all in the humanist movement, whether they're humanists, atheists, free thinkers. We recently hosted the first meeting of the Sunday Assembly.
Oh yes, from the London. Originated in London, and now it's started here in Twin Cities.
Yes, and we very intentionally invited them to have their meetings at FUS, and actually our minister, Reverend Dr. David Breeden, was the speaker at their first monthly meeting. So I think our role is to open our doors to other people within the free-thinking community and be welcoming to all and build the visibility of this movement throughout Minnesota and throughout the country to the extent that we can.
Now, we've had on this series of programs a few other Unitarian Universalist ministers, but perhaps we should extend a welcome to others who might be watching to let me know if you would like to appear on this program, either with me as interviewer or as our regular host, Dr. David Breeden. Now, what are you involved with professionally? I'm impressed by what I've heard. How would you describe it?
Well, I am the legislative advocate, senior public policy advocate for the ARC Greater Twin Cities. And we are...
What's that mean?
Yeah. Well, we are an advocacy organization that has been around since the mid-40s, both on a state level and a national level. And we advocate for the rights and the needs of persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
That's important.
It's very important.
They need an advocate, from what I've seen.
Oh yes, at one time, members of this community were shuttered away in state hospitals, and
or in the attics of homes.
In the attics of homes,
yeah.
And you can see pictures of people who were at the state hospital in Cambridge in 1972. And we have film of this, and it looks like, literally like people that survived a Nazi concentration camp.
Wow.
The neglect of the people, the abuse of the people was so bad. And so we had a movement through the ARC to deinstitutionalize all those people, and that finally took place in the 1990s, and we were finally able to get most of the people out of those state hospitals. And
into what?
well, into community-based settings. At first, there was a lot of construction of what you might call group homes, or even larger residential settings. But over time, people have really expressed a desire and a need for just being able to live in their family home, in an apartment with supports. People want to live, get away from any kind of institutional feel to where they live.
I know of some participating in the ARC that are just in a regular family home, and among the 5 of them, they are able to take care of all different duties of home housekeeping and keeping up the place. But I think they do have a little help from someone who comes in from the ARC from time to time.
Well, it wouldn't be from the ARC. We don't provide direct services. We're just advocacy, but it could be from a personal care attendant agency, or some agency that provides in-home services. And yeah, you are right. Children are no longer institutionalized. They live with their families. They are have a guarantee of an education in the public schools because of the IDEA law that passed in the mid-'70s.
IDEA law, what was that?
Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, and that established the right to a free and appropriate public education for all students with disabilities. And so that has been a major driving force that has allowed kids to be educated with their peers in classrooms, and then receive the supports that they need to later on become taxpayers, to get a job, to no longer have that legacy of these are people with cognitive disabilities, they can't do anything, we gotta
Are there some notable examples of people who have been in this disability group that have accomplished something?
Oh, sure. We have numerous examples of what ended up forming here in Minnesota, and it's really been a leader throughout the United States, is something called the self-advocacy movement. And so we've had a number of individuals who have been real leaders in that movement. And we had people, you had mentioned earlier, the Safe and Supportive Schools Act, the anti-bullying legislation.
Yes.
Well, one gentleman who's with a disability, who's affiliated with ARC, his name is Hunter Sargent. He spoke at a number of different rallies in support of that legislation. He's spoken before legislators. We have all kinds of persons with disabilities that every day during the legislative session are over there. They're speaking to their elected officials. They're making their voice known. And so we've had some real leadership, in particular in Minnesota, for that kind of national movement.
Good. Well, I'm glad Minnesota's right out front there with that kind of achievement. Mm-hmm. You're aren't you also part of a larger group?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What do you call it? What is your role in that?
I am the chair of the board of directors for the Minnesota Consortium for Citizens with Disabilities. Now that's a mouthful, but we usually go by Minnesota CCD.
Minnesota
CCD.
Consortium for people with
for citizens
with disabilities.
Yes.
Good.
mnccd.org if somebody
Oh,
wants
good,
to look that
good.
up. Uh-huh.
And you're teamed up with other organizations there?
Yes, yes. We are a coalition of almost 50 organizations.
50?
50 organizations
Wow.
with a disability focus of some sort. And we come together as an umbrella group to do lobbying at the legislature and try to speak on behalf of the entire disability community. We know that when we can magnify our voice and work together, that we can accomplish so much more than if we were just trying to, each organization was just trying to do things on their own, and you know, that's not the way to victory at the legislature. You've got to make coalitions and unite with people, and so we've been doing that very effectively through this
Well,
coalition.
congratulations on that, and your chairmanship of it.
Thank you, thank you.
But what do you see now to be the biggest challenges facing the disability community?
Well, you know, Minnesota has adopted what they call an Olmstead plan, and what that refers to is the Olmstead case went to the United States Supreme Court in 1999, and it said basically that people have the right to live in the community. Well, we had a facility here in Minnesota called the Minnesota Extended Treatment Options, METO, that was actually found to be abusing persons with disabilities.
Oh, no.
And so through our advocacy efforts at the ARC Greater Twin Cities, it ultimately resulted in a federal lawsuit against the state of Minnesota. And so a couple of...
A very needed lawsuit.
A very needed. So a couple of years ago, Judge Donovan Frank, federal Judge Donovan Frank, he put together a decree with the state of Minnesota, and Minnesota agreed to establish an Olmstead Commission. And the purpose of that commission, the governor appointed an interagency task force chaired by the lieutenant governor to bring together department heads and look at all of the agencies in state government and what are the things that are limiting the ability of persons with disabilities to live in the community? How can we increase communication between state agencies, and how can we move towards compliance with this Supreme Court decision? And so that plan is up for approval by the judge, and they will be required next legislative session to come forward with specific funding proposals to enact some of the recommendations that have been made. And
sounds like you're making great progress.
We are making great progress, but there's still many issues to contend with.
Yeah. Gene, this has been so valuable, and yet we're now at the end.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning in, and please get your schedule to see when we're on again. Thank you.